Jamie Beaulieu was going about her morning routine in late November of 2021. It was 9 a.m. when her phone rang, and she didn't recognize the number and debated not answering, thinking the call may be from a scammer or something. But she picked up the phone anyway, and as soon as she said the word hello, her entire world was turned upside down. The person on the other end was a representative from the American consulate in Mexico. She suddenly felt unable to breathe, especially when she heard the words Sativa Transue, dead, and hotel room. Sativa was Jamie's daughter, and she was on vacation in Cancun, Mexico with her boyfriend of 3 years. The world could have ended right then and there, and Jamie wouldn't have even budged, but she quickly realized there was a job to do. Find her daughter's killer. Welcome to True Crime Stories. If you're new here, I'm your host, Ty Knotts, and I post new true crime documentaries every single week. And if you're watching this video, that probably means you're interested in true crime, and that's pretty much all we do here. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. It's completely free, and it just lets you know when I post new videos. Sativa Transue was born on May 19th of 1995 in Spokane, Washington. When she was 12 years old, the Transue family moved to Cheney, and this is the place that Sativa called home. She had a sister named Michaela, and the two were very close. Not only were they sisters, but they were basically like best friends. Sativa attended Cheney High School, from where she graduated in 2013, and later she enrolled in Eastern Washington University and studied exercise science. Sativa wanted to pursue a career in the field of fitness and training, and her goal was to become a massage therapist. Now, if you needed any confirmation as to how bright and likable Sativa was, she was actually voted as the student with the most contagious laugh in high school. And I know this has become a bit of a cliche in the true crime genre, but Sativa, in all honesty, was the type of person that just loved all things happy, whether it be the shining sun, bright colors, a good movie, or delicious food. She just loved to live. In June of 2017, after she graduated from EWU, Sativa moved to Milton, Washington, and she wanted to open dispensaries in the surrounding area. Even though she was moving to a new place where she knew no one, the transition was pretty seamless. Being such a friendly and outgoing person, she made new friends very quickly and settled down in Milton in record time. Soon, her infectious personality caught the attention of one very significant person, and his name was Taylor Allen. Sativa and Taylor met while working in Cheney, and according to those that knew Allen, they were the complete opposites. Sativa was adventurous and loving and was essentially a breath of fresh air. But Taylor, on the other hand, well, he was a weird guy from the start. He was a bit more reserved than Sativa, but there's really nothing wrong with being opposites in a relationship. If you're a proper team, it just means you kind of got all your bases covered because you both specialize in different things. But the problem was, Taylor was also super insecure. For whatever reason, it was almost like he didn't feel he deserved Sativa and he felt that she was going to leave him or cheat on him or something. Now, he didn't know what or why, but it was pretty clear he was paranoid. When his anxiety got the better of him, he'd find himself tracking the activity on Sativa's phone through his laptop. Every message Sativa would get on her phone, Taylor would simultaneously get on his laptop. This was pretty obviously just insane. To the outside world, Taylor was charming, likable, and a pretty easygoing guy, but behind closed doors, he was struggling. It wasn't long into the relationship when Taylor began to isolate Sativa. He wouldn't allow her to meet her family or friends, and if she did, then he'd be so upset afterward that Sativa wondered if the trip was even worth it. So she started staying in and secluding herself. Now, this was bad enough, but to make things worse, Taylor soon walked onto the path of addiction, and this made everything worse. Taylor was already paranoid without having his mind altered, but now he was so much worse. Sativa was speaking with a friend, and when Taylor was under the influence, the word that she used to describe him was, quote, a literal beast. It's safe to say Sativa was not in a good place, and clearly neither was Taylor. To make matters worse, Taylor was also involved in illegal drug dealing and had several run-ins with the law. He was even arrested for the distribution at one point, and that was the moment when things went even further south. Sativa's sister, Michaela, visited often, and even though she would never see Taylor around, she couldn't take her eyes off of the sizable holes in the apartment walls, the broken shelves, tables, and glass everywhere. But even though Michaela had her suspicions, Sativa waved all of them away. Somehow, Taylor had successfully managed to ruin his relationship with Sativa, and now she felt trapped and she felt forced to lie for Taylor and cover up his mistakes. Even if Sativa wanted to leave, Taylor would pull out all the stops and threaten to end his life if she ever walked away from him. Well, by November of 2021, it was Thanksgiving, and Sativa wanted to go visit her family. It had been such a long time, and she just wanted to have a much-needed catch-up with her family and her friends. But Taylor had other plans. He'd actually planned a trip to Cancun the same day that Sativa was supposed to go and visit her family. Now, we don't know for sure whether or not this was intentional or if this was supposed to be a last-minute surprise for Sativa, but many people feel as though Taylor basically forced Sativa to choose Cancun with him over Thanksgiving with their own family. Seeing how isolated Sativa was, she eventually chose to go to Cancun. Now, don't get me wrong, Sativa loved Cancun. It was one of her favorite vacation spots. But many people believe this was why Taylor specifically chose this place, because he knew that Sativa wouldn't say no. When news of this came out, friends and family were a bit shocked, but a former friend of Sativa had a pretty interesting story to share. Stacia Shirley, who'd been the boss of both Sativa and Taylor in the past, had a lot to say about Taylor, and it wasn't anything good. According to Stacia, Taylor had, quote, a ridiculous temper. She vividly remembers a significant incident when Taylor got frustrated while building a work desk for her. He let his rage loose on the poor table and smashed it to pieces with a mallet. So you can probably tell that Taylor didn't like it when things didn't go his way, and even furniture was not safe from his violent outbursts. Well, this was the man that Sativa had been dating for 3 years, and had tried multiple times to break things off with. But in the end, Taylor would always find the right words to say that would bring her back to him. This man had some serious underlying demons that he was wrestling with. Well, in the end, Sativa decided to follow through with this Cancun vacation plan. But once she was back in Milton, enough was enough, and she planned on breaking things off with Taylor for good. But this would never happen, because Sativa wouldn't make it back from Cancun. At least not alive. When discussing cases like this that involve people who love to travel, there's one big thing you need to have covered before making big vacation plans: cell phone service. And Mint Mobile, the sponsor of today's video, has you covered. Mint has completely reimagined the wireless shopping experience from the ground up. No stores, no salespeople, just easy and simple online sales. Every plan they offer includes unlimited talk and text using the nation's largest 5G network. And they even offer free calling to Mexico, Canada, and the UK. With Mint, you won't be persuaded into buying some huge data plan that includes a bunch of features you don't want. Most Americans only use about 7 or 8 gigabytes of data each month, so if that's you, why pay for more than that? Mint offers monthly data plans such as their 5 gigabyte, 15 gigabyte, 20 gigabyte, or even unlimited if you're a bit of a power user like me. The interesting thing about Mint is that you can save money depending on how many months of service you commit to. You can sign up for a plan for as little as 3 months or as many as 12 months. The more months you commit to, the lower your price. Switching to Mint is also incredibly easy. You can sign up and activate your device with an eSIM within minutes, and all from the comfort of your home. And in a survey, 96% of Mint users rated themselves as highly satisfied with Mint's customer care. But if that's not enough, Mint even offers a 7-day unconditional money-back guarantee, so you really have nothing to lose. Visit the link below or scan the QR code on screen to switch. New customers can get their premium wireless service plans starting at $15 a month. Thanks to Mint Mobile for partnering with us on today's video. November 25th, 2021 was the day when Sativa and Taylor left for Cancun, and in true Taylor fashion, he couldn't board the plane without bickering with Sativa. Peace and quiet were unfamiliar words in this man's dictionary, it seems, and the vacation was off to an anything but pleasant start. As they left, Sativa wished Michaela a happy Thanksgiving through text and told her that she loved her. She then spent the next 2 days posting pictures of herself enjoying the sun and the beautiful weather, and she looked genuinely happy. But 2 days into the vacation, Sativa's friends reached out to Michaela. Up to this point, Sativa had been texting them all throughout the day, sharing photos and updating them on her trip. But then, all of a sudden, Sativa just stopped responding to calls and texts. One of Sativa's friends also shared some very alarming information. She said that Sativa had texted her saying that she and Taylor got into an argument and things got physical to the point where Sativa had gotten injured and needed stitches. This immediately alarmed Sativa's family. Things had never gotten this bad before, and they really had no idea how things had escalated so quickly. They tried to call Sativa, but she wouldn't answer. They tried texting her, but no response. As afternoon turned into evening, things only grew worse and worse. Sativa was completely MIA, and all of her texts and calls were unread and unanswered. As the cold night air slowly transitioned into the warmth of the morning sun, Sativa's mother got the call. That 9 a.m. call that is every parent's worst nightmare. One dreadful day in late November of 2021, Sativa's mom got a call from the American consulate in Mexico, and the words that the representative said stopped everyone's world. Sativa had been found lifeless in her hotel room. She was not just lifeless, though. One look at her and anyone would know that she'd been through something seriously disturbing. There was not an inch of her body that was not battered, and it was downright horrific. For Sativa's family, figuring out how things had gotten to this point was an uphill battle. We're talking hundreds and hundreds of miles and a huge language barrier. This was not going to be easy. But Sativa's loved ones needed answers. So even though they didn't exactly know how everything had escalated, Michaela and the rest of Sativa's family were able to piece things together based on witnesses, surveillance footage, and the police. So the day when Sativa tragically lost her life was a normal one. I mean, as normal as it can get when you're on vacation in a foreign country with a man that just makes your skin crawl. But the couple was seen at a restaurant on the evening of November 26th, and according to witnesses, they weren't bickering and things were normal. But nothing was normal after the fact. After dinner, Sativa and Taylor went to the bar, and after a couple of drinks, Sativa saw Taylor getting cozy with another woman, and naturally an argument broke out between the two. Sativa was hurt and angry that Taylor had the nerve to flirt with someone else right in front of her, let alone after all he'd put her through after the numerous times she tried to break up with him. Things just didn't make sense anymore. After getting caught and confronted by Sativa, Taylor, a 31-year-old man, started acting like a petulant child, throwing a fit, picking things up and throwing them around across the room and just acting insane. The bar security asked Taylor to leave, and on the way to their hotel room, Taylor was jumping over chairs and fences, falling on his face in the process, and just being an utter menace. Security staff eventually asked Sativa to not let him out of their hotel room for the rest of the night. And after this debacle, Sativa and Taylor were in their room, but many calls were made to the reception desk about screams that were heard coming from their hotel room. Feminine screams. When the hotel personnel went up to the 4th floor to check on the matter, they were stunned to see Sativa. She had a deep gash across her chin, about 1.5 inches long. Now, even though we don't know the full extent of what happened in that hotel room, it's pretty easy to assume from the screaming and Taylor's 3-year abusive history that a fight got out of control, and this time Taylor had managed to injure Sativa. Her cut was so deep that it needed stitches, so Sativa had to be taken down to the lobby to see a doctor. But where was Taylor? Well, he'd climbed out the window of the hotel room and he was lying near the air conditioning units, clearly intoxicated. Hotel security approached him and he was babbling nonsense about jumping off the balcony and not knowing where he was. The hotel staff even called the police, but before officers arrived, Taylor was taken back into the room, so the police never actually spoke to Taylor or Sativa. If they would have, well, maybe things would have turned out differently. While getting her injury stitched, the doctor seemed concerned for Sativa. She kept saying that she fell, that Taylor didn't hurt her, and that they loved each other. It's said that the doctor even offered Sativa a different room to spend the night in, but Sativa apparently refused. Now, this statement has been disputed by Sativa's sister, though. She was frustrated that her sister was in a different country, didn't know how to speak the language, and was being subjected to abuse by a man 3 times her size. She was naturally terrified, and there's a good chance that she didn't even understand what the doctor was offering her, considering the language barrier. It's really frustrating because no one really knows what happened, and because everyone in Mexico speaks Spanish and Sativa didn't understand the language, all of this is very confusing. After getting patched up, Sativa went back to the room with Taylor, only this time it was a different room. They were moved to the 1st floor so that Taylor wouldn't jump off the balcony again. Well, after that, we really don't know how things went down. We only know that late during the night, some people on the same floor as Taylor and Sativa heard a woman's screams coming from none other than Sativa's room. But this time, sadly, they didn't report it to anyone. Not even the reception, and definitely not to the police. After all that had transpired, the neighbors just turned the other way. The hotel's head of security also heard a woman's screams, but he did nothing. Apparently the hotel staff and security were so scared of Taylor since he was this big angry guy. But need I remind you, these are the people responsible for the hotel and its patrons' security, yet they're too afraid of someone to confront them. Well, come the next morning, a freshly showered Taylor walked up to the reception and in a cold, calm voice told the receptionist his girlfriend was unconscious. When hotel officials finally entered Sativa's hotel room, they were met with a horrific scene. Sativa was found face down on the floor near the bed, and every inch of her body was covered in bruises and injuries. Scratches, you name it. It was just terrible. What was so chilling was that her handbag was slung over her shoulder. It was as if she was collecting her bag and belongings to try to get away from Taylor, but obviously she couldn't. Needless to say, by the time investigators arrived, it was clear that Sativa wasn't simply unconscious. She'd lost her life. Sativa's body was taken for an autopsy, and no sooner than the coroner took a look at her, it was clear what had taken place. Taylor had beaten Sativa so badly that she was unrecognizable, and sadly he was successful in ending her life with his bare hands. Sativa also had defensive wounds on her body. She fought back, but tragically it was not enough to save her life. For comparison, Sativa weighed barely 140 pounds, and Taylor weighed 260. Sativa was completely overpowered by a man who was bigger and stronger than her, and not to mention violent to the core. Sativa's passing was just so harrowing and so tragic that her family still doesn't believe it. They blame themselves for not seeing the signs and not doing anything about it. It's just heartbreaking. Well, now the police had to catch the wrongdoer, and luckily it didn't take them long to realize who it was, especially when they talked to witnesses and got to know the events leading up to Sativa's horrific murder. Taylor Allen was immediately arrested. Since Sativa was originally from Washington and she was murdered in Cancun, Mexico, her family obviously wanted her body to be brought back to the States. The Transue family wanted to conduct another autopsy, and they also wanted to bury her in the place where she was born and had lived all of her life. But as we all know, bringing a body back from another country to one's home country is expensive, and sadly, Sativa's family couldn't manage to bring her back immediately. This led Michaela to set up a GoFundMe, whose goal was to raise money to bring Sativa back home, give her a proper burial, and fight for justice. Michaela was not ready to back down. She was determined to give justice to her sister, who was a happy, cheerful, and loving human being. Her only mistake was staying with and enduring the mental, physical, and emotional torment of Taylor for as long as she did. Sativa's case will be handled by Mexican law enforcement, which means that the trial will also be held there, which is another huge problem. There's still a major language barrier, and Sativa's family has to make frequent trips from the US to Mexico, which get incredibly expensive very quickly. On December 8th of 2021, the Transue family was able to speak with a lawyer who then spoke with prosecutors, and a day later, Sativa's body was finally flown back to the US. Her family was finally able to lay her to rest, but the case was far from over. The Transue family was assured that Sativa's case would be assigned to one of the strictest judges in Mexico. The new year came, and as of April of 2022, Taylor's defense team requested 2 more months to investigate the case, which was granted. But even after more than 2 years have now passed, there have been no further updates regarding Taylor's trial, and it's unclear what the holdup even is. The prosecutors are looking at a 50-year sentence, which is the maximum for femicide in Mexico. But why Taylor hasn't been sentenced yet, no one really knows. But back in Mexican jail, it was found that Taylor had joined a cartel and had done a lot of questionable things to attempt to buy his freedom and supposedly escape from jail. Time will tell if this plot works out, but I think it's safe to say it probably won't. The wheels of justice move slowly, but I just hope that Sativa's family, after all of this struggle and back and forth, can get justice for their daughter. At this point, we just have to wait and see what decision the Mexican justice system makes, but Taylor supposedly isn't the only culprit here. Michaela suspects that Taylor's mom, Rosa Duran, of breaking into Sativa's apartment following her passing and stealing her belongings, including a safe, keys to both Sativa and Taylor's cars, and several other things. She was the only woman who constantly called Sativa's apartment complex demanding to be let in, but since she wasn't on the lease, she was denied every single time. But suddenly, around this same time, the break-in occurred, and then Rosa's calls abruptly stopped. Seems a bit suspicious if you ask me. To make matters worse, Sativa's support dog, Shadow, has also been in Rosa's care ever since the couple left for Cancun, which Sativa never approved of. Michaela said that Sativa vowed to save Shadow from Rosa the second she got back from vacation. But that day unfortunately never came, and Shadow is now trapped. If there's anything you need to know about Sativa and Rosa's relationship, it's that the women were not on good terms. According to Sativa, Rosa controlled Taylor to no end, and Rosa even tried to manipulate Taylor and Sativa into permanently moving into a duplex closer to her after they got back from Cancun. So you can tell that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, and both Taylor and Rosa need to be held accountable for whatever they did, and whatever they do, I guess. I just hope that this case reaches its end soon. Even though 50 years is not nearly enough time for a man like Taylor, I just hope that justice is served by the Mexican court system, because Sativa and her family didn't deserve what they went through, and what they're still going through. Michaela has made it her life mission to educate women on the red flags in an abusive relationship. She urges everyone who's trapped to ask for help and escape. She truly believes that Sativa would have wanted her story to change lives, and Michaela vows to never stop fighting. She does not want any other woman to go through or even experience what her sister did. This case is something you've probably heard time and time again, but it is seriously alarming the amount of people that are trapped in abusive relationships and marriages. This is a terrifying cycle. It is truly mortifying to try to leave a relationship with someone that you're afraid of. But let Sativa's case be an example for any of you that may be in a similar spot. Waiting it out won't make it better. Chances are it'll only make it worse. If you fear for your safety or your life or your children's safety or lives, you have to leave now. Don't end up like Sativa. Please let her case be your light out of that darkness. I don't want to see any of you end up becoming a true crime story like Sativa, or Joshua Hilberling, or Danielle Finlay-Jones, Danielle Nemitz, Alicia Bromfield, Carlin Ramirez, James Barry, Angie Barlow. Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of True Crime Stories. I wanted to give a special thank you to a couple channel members, including Krista Johnson and Diana. If you also want to become a member of the channel, you'll gain access to new videos sometimes days or weeks before they're uploaded to the public. And it is a great way to support the channel and help out. And I appreciate all of you guys that have decided to do that. If you want to join, you can click that big join button below the video, or find the link down in the description. And don't forget, True Crime Stories t-shirts are also now available. You can grab one of these from a link down in the description as well. But as always, if you enjoyed this video, check out this other interesting case I covered, and don't forget to subscribe. It's totally free and it just keeps you up to date with all my future videos. But my name is Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.